Okay, today I'm here with another isekai, and it's a really popular one. Honestly, I didn't really want to do this review, knowing that I would get a lot of hate from this. The reason for that is my opinion on anything other than its web novel version is not that great, and I have some valid reasons for thinking that way. So, the novel I'm going to talk about today is Tate no Yuusha, or The Rising of the Shield Hero. Tate no Yuusha was actually one of the very first web novels I've ever read. I started reading it just after I had finished reading the web novel version of Mushoku Tensei, as they both didn't have any English translated light novel versions at that time. So I have quite the different perception of the web novel version of Tate no Yuusha. And I also won't be afraid to say that the web novel version is probably the superior version of them all due to the pure, unadulterated revenge story that it is. The light novel, manga, and the anime adaptation was actually nothing more than mere watered down versions of the web novel that was full of rage and blood. The light novel version may have had more added content, but it lost its intensity in the process. If I had to compare it with something, then it would be a comparison between a dragon and a lizard. If the web novel version was a racing dragon, then all the other versions that came after it were probably a bunch of cute lizards that people like to pet a lot. Honestly, I feel that this story has been grossly overhyped. In my opinion, it's probably only okay at best. For many of the early readers, like me, the main attraction of the story came from the revenge aspects of the web novel version. That was the main appeal of the novel from the beginning. Just think about it for a moment. What kind of a story would Tate no Yuusha be if there was no revenge plot? Without it, the story would be just another slice of life isekai with an underdog protagonist in the massive pile of mediocre isekai out there. And it actually joins that pile once the revenge arc of the novel ends. Now, getting back to the topic. The web novel version did the revenge arc exceptionally well. In it, we have a very different Naofumi that we get to see in other versions. This Naofumi is ruthless, vindictive, and has little space for mercy towards his enemies in his heart. He acts exactly like a person who was driven mad from the betrayal and despair he had experienced just after being forcefully summoned from his own world. Just imagine, you suddenly find yourself in a strange situation, in an unfamiliar land, where you don't know anyone and can't trust anyone. You are practically abducted from your own world in the name of hero summoning. And in fact, you are nothing more than a bunch of glorified slaves in the name of heroes. And then imagine yourself receiving the worst kind of reception from the people who summoned you. Imagine facing the hostility of the people who abducted and brought you into this strange land. Imagine being betrayed by the person who you finally decided to trust. If you are not a mindless fool, you would be furious, you would be mad. You would want to burn the world to ashes. You would want revenge. Unless you were some kind of a saint, you would never forgive them. And that's what the web novel version Naofumi did. He took revenge as his driving force. He toiled hard to make himself stronger, and finally, he took his revenge. And he took his revenge in the most ruthless way possible. He showed no mercy towards his enemies. Read the web novel version to know more. However, after taking his revenge on his enemies, Naofumi began to exact his revenge on the world itself by making himself happy. And this is one of the few shining moments of the entire novel. This world was hostile towards him from the start, so he found that the best way to take revenge would be to live happily in this world. Until, of course, he finds a way out of this hellhole. Raphtalia, the slave number 1, contributed much to keep his sanity intact as he struggled to survive in this rotten society. And that's pretty much it for the interesting part of the story. The rest of the novel becomes pretty generic, with little to no character development to speak of. The author struggles to come up with something new as the story takes a deep dive into the abyss of popular cliches that we see so much in any other isekai. It becomes just another isekai with a promising start, mediocre middle, and a disappointing end. I do have my fair share of complaints about some of the decisions the protagonist makes during the post-driven storyline. I don't understand his insistence to stay in a country that gave him so much pain. I mean, why don't you just move to the country that practically worshipped the shield hero like a god? Also, I have to admit that the protagonist is, for the lack of a better word, a bit dumb. He tries to act like a big baddie, but ends up helping the people that hurt him in the end anyways. He essentially turns into a mother hen. There is no romance, despite of what anyone says otherwise. There is, however, only one-sided affection, which gets nullified by Naofumi's extreme disinterest towards such things. As for the harem tag, I'll be honest, I have never understood the Japanese perception of a harem. It's a bit of a grey area for me. I mean, can we call it a harem if multiple persons feel affection or attraction towards a certain individual? I don't know. Anyway, Tate no Isha or Shield Hero has its strong points and also its fair share of flaws. But overall, it's an okay novel that is definitely worth reading. That's all for today. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay safe and healthy till we meet in the next videos. Thank you.